Yo guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. I've been going on a kick recently of watching how it's made and like making of videos, getting like instruction, not necessarily instructions, but kind of like this is how this thing is made in that you have come across or drive past or see in your grocery store or whatever, like see at Target or left or whatever. And I came across this video, how it's made Domino's pizza. I used to work at Domino's. I don't talk about it very much, but that was the first job that I had when I moved up to Portland. I don't work at Domino's anymore, haven't for a few years, but I'm interested to see if this video gets it right of how Domino's pizza is made, because there's a few things that Domino's does that some other places don't do. So I'm going to see if they catch it. And if they do, I'll let you know if they're right, or when they say something that Domino's does, I'll let you know if it's right or not. So, or at least in my experience, if it's right or not. So let's take a look and see how Domino's pizzas are made, and I'll correct it if it's not.
Something that connects everyone is love for the cheesy, savory, lovely delights that we know as pizzas. And while the best pizzas are the ones...
Speaking of this, while I give this quality maxed out at 100% for sure, or 1080p, whatever, I can't eat Domino's pizzas anymore. The smell and working at Domino's for as long as I did, I can't eat Domino's pizzas anymore. The smell and just like looking at it, it's not appealing to me at all. So it's a fun fact. If you work at restaurants like Domino's where they serve like one or two things, at some point you get tired of them. Unfortunately, because I used to like Domino's pizzas, and that was my go-to before. But no, not anymore. Not for a while.
Foods in history. But how can something that is usually made by an experienced chef?
That's a Domino's. Yep.
Machines thousands of times.
That is. Yep. I've made a pizza just like that. This doesn't give me a whole lot of hope. The YouTube DiGiorno channel. But we'll see. That is a Domino's location. That is also a Domino's location.
Well, let's find
As a driver, because I was a driver for a while. I don't think this video is right. Why are we talking about frozen pizzas? Either way, because as a Domino's driver and anybody that works at Domino's, you have to also make pizzas occasionally. So sometimes when it got super busy or when we were understaffed, drivers, while they weren't out on a delivery, were making the pizzas in the kitchen. So kneading the dough, all that kind of stuff. Not actually like creating them, because we got dough. I don't know. Did we have somebody come in and make the dough, or were we shipped the dough overnight and it was there in the morning? I don't remember. I didn't open. I was a closer, so I was not even. We just used the rest of the dough that we had.
Like homemade or restaurant ones, are made up of three main components. The dough, which is made from flour, but also includes yeast, oil, salt, as well as some preservatives. The sauce, which is a proprietary blend.
Yeah, this video is not right. I'm pretty sure Domino's used cornmeal or something like it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they used cornmeal instead of flour. Interesting. Okay, let's see if that's the only thing they got wrong.
And spices, as well as a few chemicals to ensure smoothness and stable shelf life, and the cheese, which is brought pre-made into the factory.
That looks like feta cheese. Feta cheese on pizza?
From simple vegetables to mushrooms and meats.
Yeah.
But regardless of what exact combination of ingredients is used by the factory, once they've been gathered, we can start
that just doesn't look
process that begins as it does with all pizzas, with kneading the dough. While many people don't like to have it, any pizza enthusiast can tell you that a crust can make or break a pizza.
It's very true.
This is why this step could be considered the most important. Now, since these pizzas are going to be made hundreds at a time, the factory starts by mixing.
I've clickbaited you. This is not Domino's pizza. This is like your, I mean, we called it earlier, the DiGiorno. It's your DiGiorno. This is your frozen pizza. I mean, it's still going to be interesting to see how they do it, but this is not, this is incorrect. They wanted a title. Interesting.
Huge amounts of refined flour, salt, oil, some sugar for the yeast, as well as some cornmeal for flavoring.
Yeah, the fact there's sugar in American dough is crazy to me.
Industrial attachment. And once everything is mixed for a bit, they also add the magical ingredient, some active yeast that'll give the pizza crust some lovely fluffy but chewy texture. And as anyone who has ever needed
Again,
dough
the same
can
clip
tell
from
ya,
DiGiorno.
it's an intensive
This is a
job.
DiGiorno
So,
video,
to
not a
compensate for
Domino's
that,
video.
The machine mixing and kneading the dough is powered by the equivalent of a truck transmission. But as a result of that power, the dough only takes about 4 to 6 minutes to be kneaded. And once that is done, the entire kneaded mass is allowed to rest for a few minutes.
Yeah, I think
So
all of our
A,
dough got
it can
shipped in
relax
the
from all
morning.
that intensive kneading, and B, so all that yeast.
So
can
this
do
is,
its
they
job
did this
and
in
make the
a
dough fluffy
different
and airy.
factory.
And for that purpose, the dough is left untouched and allowed to rise for around half an hour. An important thing to note here is that since the slightest change in temperature and moisture can accelerate or impede the rising process, the conditions in that room are kept perfectly uniform, so that
all of our
pizzas
dough would go in
have
our
perfect
walk-in.
consistency. But once the volume has around doubled in size, the dough can move on to the next step.
Why are we
creation of
I think this guy just grabbed a bunch of random facts about pizza and put them in a video. Because that was homemade pizza. Like this, that's a homemade pizza. That's not a factory pizza. That's somebody that makes their pizza
But once the volume has around doubled
on
in
site.
size, the dough can move on to the next step, the creation of the crust. In this step, a machine turns the risen and ready dough from earlier into a machine called a chunking machine. This takes parts of that dough of 5 to 6 pounds in weight and throws them onto a conveyor belt that runs underneath the massive pan. As a result, the dough converts from one heavy mass into smaller, more manageable pieces.
Okay.
Another
Yeah.
important thing to note here is that the conveyor belt,
I-
like all others that carry the dough, has already...
They were right for a second. This is how we got all of our pizzas. All of our doughs were balls of dough. And then they like flatten them out, put effectively saran wrap or something on the top of it, like pressed it down, and then put another one of these blue trays with 6 or 8 more, depending on how big the trays were. I'm pretty sure 6. Another tray of that on top of it, and then another one of that, and another one of that. So we had in our walk-in on the ground, well, on the bottom shelf technically, just stacks of like 6 or 8 trays full of 6 or 8 pizzas just in the walk-in, and we just grabbed one out and gave it to the line when they needed it. So
one heavy mass,
and then he gets wrong.
Smaller, more manageable pieces. Another important thing,
and then this is where he gets wrong.
The conveyor belt, like all others that carry the dough, has already been dusted with raw flour so that the very tacky dough doesn't stick to them. As a result, the conveyor transfers the chunks effortlessly to the next station, which is a sheeting machine consisting of stainless steel rollers that have also been dusted with flour, and which press the chunks into one long uniform sheet that exactly...
They've just said that they chunk the dough into the individual pizza stuff, and then they just said that they make it into sheets. So is it individual dough or is it sheets of dough? Because you get conflicting information here, buddy.
Thickness of a pizza crust. From there, a set of cutters trim off the uneven edges from this crust sheet, while a set of brushes dust the top and sides of the dough with even more flour for the next step, cutting the pizzas. In this step, as you can guess,
yeah, this is at this point I know it's wrong, because this is frozen pizza or like pre-prep dough if you make your own pizzas at home, or kind of make your own pizzas.
Removes the remaining dough from the cutting and transfers it into another conveyor where it will once again combine with new dough to be used again. And all we're left with,
I'll feel bad, to be honest with you guys. I was actually really excited to watch how Domino's makes their pizzas.
So that it cooks evenly,
and I've been lied to, and then lied to you.
And then we can move on to the next step, par baking. Now, if you're making pizza at home to eat,
because this is real, that's real pizza. That's not preheat. This is all fake.
Now and cooked later.
But this is all real pizza.
So that they hold their shape in the freezer is necessary. This is why the pizza rounds are transferred from their usual plastic conveyors onto steel conveyor belts, which transport them to a continuous oven that bakes them at 390 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit between 6 chambers for 3 to 4 minutes. This ensures that the pizza crust cooks evenly through the center without burning or developing a crust, and also gives it a lot more structure than it would have had without baking. And another,
I think also with this is he's combined like the Domino's name with your pre-made doughs that you buy to build your own pizzas at home with frozen pizzas, because I don't think those are frozen, or I don't think those are frozen pizza dough, because you wouldn't have baked it and then baked it again. At least I don't think you would have, unless you like half baked and then fully baked. I don't know. Either way, this is just wrong completely.
Accomplishes is important in the next step, which is saucing.
Yep, we used to sauce. We had a ladle that had, yeah, like that, and there was a certain amount of sauce. I think it was one full ladle for a large, or maybe was it a full ladle for a small and 2 ladles for a large? I think that was it. I think it was 1 ladle for a small and 2 ladles for a large, at least at our store. I'm pretty sure. And then everything else was, none of it's weighed, none of it's precise. It just looks right, from what I remember a few years ago.
Using recipes,
I have stories about my Dominoes. Yeah, watching this video has made me remember some of the questionable things that happened at our Dominoes, or at least happened at the Dominoes, because I moved up here, and one of the people that I met while I was up here used to work at the Dominoes that I worked at, and they had some stories about some of the people that were still working at the Dominoes when I started working there. Yeah. Yeah, there were some wild things. Not anything in the store, but the people that worked there. Well. Yeah, because we did all the sauce by hand. Yeah, because this is pre-made, but then you're getting clips of handmade pizza. This is all wrong.
A bunch of tiny dollops of sauce from a saucing machine. This allows the sauce to properly adhere to the pizza crust instead of pooling on.
You've got 3 or 4 different ways to sauce a pizza in about 5 seconds. You got hand sauced it, you got the dollops of it, and then you just got a fountain of sauce. Brother. How? Okay. Yep.
On as a separate material.
Cool.
Since we're at the saucing stage, that also means it's time for cheese and other toppings. Here, large blocks of a proprietary cheese blend, which mostly includes mozzarella,
just doesn't look great.
Mozzarella are brought into the factory where they are put
that looks like the cheese that we
kind of
used, but it wasn't.
Then deposits the shredded cheese onto a conveyor belt.
Yeah, never mind. That doesn't look like the cheese we used.
Over the pizza belt. When it ends, it drops all that cheese onto the pizzas. Now, since this is not controlled, the cheese spreads evenly on the entire conveyor belt, not just the pizzas. But that's not an.
This is also making me rethink how I get frozen pizzas, or if I get frozen pizzas. I just want to completely avoid not that I eat frozen pizzas very much anyway, if ever, but the amount of reuse that some of this cheese and sauce probably gets,
as soon as the pizzas get cheesed,
it's crazy.
Transferred onto another conveyor belt.
Yeah, all that dropping.
One drops all the excess cheese down into a collector to be used again. The same is done with all other toppings like ham, pepperoni, etc., where a conveyor belt deposits them onto the pizza, and then the pizza gets transferred and the remaining toppings are reused. And once the exact amount and kind of toppings have been distributed onto the pizza, it's basically oven ready, which means that only a couple of steps remain, the first of which is testing. Now, the process of inspection is applied at almost all steps throughout the process.
Bridget grabbed a full thing of dough.
At the cutting of the pizza crusts to check for inconsistencies, folded edges, or other flaws, as well.
That's why you just weigh the dough before you split it, or before after you split it.
But this stage is the most crucial one.
And we didn't weigh any of the pizzas.
It will be impossible to catch a mistake. As a result, both people and machines check for stuff like mishappen pizzas, overcooked crusts, and non-uniform toppings, while they also measure the weight and size of the pizza to keep the product perfectly consistent. And once that's done, we can finally reach the final step, freezing and packing.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, during this step, the pizza is transferred into a separate chamber.
Doesn't even look that. I mean, that one looked all right.
In which it travels on, you guessed it, a spiral conveyor belt for over 20 minutes, and at just 25 degrees.
Over 20 minutes?
The pizza,
wow!
Turning it into an icicle instantly and locks all
I mean, that is kind of cool.
Flavors inside. And once it's
that is kind of cool.
The specified amount of time, it is brought onto the packing station.
And that just doesn't look appealing.
Machines align the pizzas individually, cut them into slices, and wrap them in shrink wrap to further seal them from the environment. Then another machine vacuum seals the shrink wrap And from there, they're boxed and shipped off to hungry family homes across the world. Click on
What? Let me know if you guys know
and
what
shipped off
company
to
this
hungry
is.
family homes across.
Let me know if you guys recognize what company this is that we've watched how they make their pizzas, because it's not Domino's. But I'd be interested to see if you guys know, first of all, know what company this is, and second of all, have bought their frozen pizzas. I'd be interested to see. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have bought that.
Click on one of these two videos. And
again, another homemade pizza, not Domino's. I would classify that Domino's is more homemade than what we just watched, but I apologize for the clickbait. I got clickbaited too. I was excited to look at Domino's pizza, but no. Oh well. Sorry. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.